Maurizio Gugelmin leads them up the hill towards the start gantry. The green flag flies and Maurizio Gugelmin heads them down towards turn number 1 with teammate Mark Blundell right behind him. And both of these Pac West drivers will be anxious not to get into any sort of trouble. You're watching from Michael Andretti now in 5th place, gets a bit crossed up on the curve, and Dario Franchitti is right ahead of him.
Yeah, and taking a very wide line through that corner, careful to stay away from the normal racing line. There's an accident now at the back of the field. Gonzalez has spun. Car in front of him is into the tyre wall on the inside of the racetrack. Difficult to pick out who that is at the moment.
Absolutely, yes. Car upside down on the far side there. Gonzalez is the car nearest you in the picture, but still very difficult to determine what that car is on the other side. Well, could be Al Unser Jr. It looks like it's one of the Penske cars, yes, and we think that it's Al Unser Jr. who has been flicked upside down. The safety crews, and you can just see some movement under the car there, which is a good sign, but obviously a very nasty incident. Let's see if we can see what happened. Al Unser Jr. and coming across the, well, he just made contact and then flicked across into the tyre. So not exactly a very high speed impact, but it was just a very unfortunate incident, and which threw the car upside down. But you think, Jeremy, car number 3, we reckon?
Yeah, we can't really see a number as yet, but there we'll see. There's the kart safety team there right on the spot, making sure that whoever it is in there is okay. We're hearing word that it's Paul Tracy. There is Roger Penske, the team owner, looking somewhat concerned, obviously, in the pits.
Yeah, well, that's a very nasty looking incident indeed. And so the car upside down and the crew going to work as quickly as possible. But of course they will take their time here and just hope that things are all right. They won't be in a rush to turn this thing back on onto its wheels in case there's been any neck injury.
Yeah, and making sure too that there is no fuel leaking out. That'll be one of the first concerns of the kart safety team. They really are very, very experienced, these guys, and they're extremely good at their job. And once they've ascertained there's no direct problem, then they will turn the car over and allow Paul to get out of the car. But there we see Gualter spinning really on his own, and the two Penskes there, quite a margin behind him. Paul Tracy elects to go to the inside of the corner. As you can see, Salas spinning, but then Salas comes right back across him, and Paul has absolutely nowhere to go.
No, that's right. Then it slides across the grass, but it's when it hits the tyres that it gets flicked up into the air and just rolls over onto the roll hoop just behind the driver's head, which of course is there to protect the driver in that incident, and hopefully that will have done its work. It didn't look as though it dug in too much, and now you see they're just being very, very careful to get that car back down again and not to jolt it too much. And of course it is critical in this sort of situation. There could have been just a nasty knock to the neck, and they have to be so careful. Good job done there by the kart safety team, not rushing in and panicking, which we've seen in some events in the past, not necessarily in this championship. But it's very important that time is taken. There is Paul Tracy, and he's clambering out of the car, and that's a great sign. And we just heard that the crew is actually getting his backup car ready.
Bit of wishful thinking there. I think the race has already started, so there is no chance of that happening for Paul Tracy. But if the race had been stopped, if there had been a red flag and a complete restart, then he would have been able to go to the backup car. Now they're getting now they've ascertained that Paul is okay. You can just see the flash of the corner workers getting Gualter Salaz's car back underway.
So he doesn't look too fussed by it, does he? His upside down experience, and we saw that shot of Parker Johnson at the beginning of the show going upside down last year. Seems to be a bit of a happening here at the Road America circuit. So the earlier points leader, Paul Tracy, doesn't look as though he's going to be in much shape to close that points gap down to Alex Zanardi. Maurizio Gugelmin leads them round from Mark Blundell. Alex Zanardi, Franchitti in 4th, Michael Andretti in 5th, Scott Pruitt in 6th, and there were no really major changes on that opening lap, and until they came round to the yellow flag. Everyone starting line astern anyway, and there Paul Tracy, with a rather rueful expression, marches his way back towards the pits, just picking up a few bits and pieces along the way. But what a great disappointment for the Canadian.
Yeah, he's had awful luck these last 4 or 5 races. Of course, he missed that race in Detroit when he had some sort of weird virus that was affecting his balance, and he just couldn't see straight at all. He had to miss that race, and since then just nothing has gone right for the poor guy.
So Roger Penske, the team leader, looking extremely resigned after what has been a very tough part to the season, as you say, Jeremy, and this just has not helped their cause at all. So Tracy, still not quite sure where to go. I think he's probably going to get a lift back, actually, from the safety crew, which is a sensible idea.
That was actually Dr. Terry Trammell there that was speaking to Paul just before he went off into the ambulance. Terry Trammell is the specialist that looks after these drivers, particularly in terms of leg injuries or any sort of structural damage, so to speak, for the drivers. He's done a lot of work over the years, and is a great friend of all these drivers, and he's always very concerned, and he's just passing on his best wishes and probably commiserations to Paul, knowing Dr. Trammell.
So the other cars still coming around. They've just completed about 1.5 laps so far after that dramatic start incident, and of course really wasn't a lot that Paul Tracy could do about that, and I shouldn't think he'll blame Walter Salas as much as it's just one of those things. It's just an unfortunate incident that can always happen at the start of a race, particularly when it's so slippery out there today. Yeah,
one would have thought that the odds were that Salas would spin to the outside of the corner, and unfortunately Walter had a bit of momentum on those tyres as they were spinning, and it was just enough to give enough grip to spin it back across the racetrack. If Walter had stood on the brakes, the car would probably just slid along the racetrack and people would have been able to go either side. But you know, I'm not blaming Walter there. It was just one of those things. Obviously he lost it coming out of the corner, and at that stage he's just trying to keep on the racetrack and try and get underway again. That's what he's thinking, and poor old Paul Tracy just happened to choose the wrong side to go. I mean, a split second earlier or later he could have seen which way the car was going to go in and probably missed it, but that's the way Paul Tracy's luck is going just now, it seems.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Although it wouldn't have been that great a surprise if it had been Alonso either, because his luck hasn't been very much better this year. But Al is still survived, I do believe. Yes, he's in 13th position. So Alonso Jr., who we thought it might be initially, not him, it was Paul Tracy. Now, here's a view from Christian Fittipaldi, who was just behind that group there. You can see up ahead the white car. Tracy collects it. Do you get a view there? You see a view of Tracy's car going over just as we passed on the onboard camera of Christian Fittipaldi. So he was able to watch that, although I should think he was fairly busy concentrating on keeping his car in a straight line coming out of turn one. Difficult for the drivers as well, because we've all been sitting around waiting for this race to get underway. It doesn't exactly calm them down much to have this sort of delay. They've been sitting in the back of their transporters in the hospitality areas in their transporters, but it's not, they're keyed up all the time, and that really doesn't help at all when they get out onto the track. A very good idea by Card, I have to say, to start them single file, and I think could have been a lot worse if it hadn't been single file.
Yeah, it's amazing actually how quickly the track has dried out. We had a little race just a few minutes ago for the Dodge Neon cars, and that certainly helped to dry out this track quite significantly. And as you can see there, there's not much, certainly no standing water in this racetrack, and it really is beginning to dry out fairly quickly. And that's certainly going to be very interesting to see how that plays out over the next few laps. You can see Mark Blundell driving on the right-hand side of the racetrack. It's damper out there. He's just trying to keep those tyres as cool as he possibly can. And certainly, we've got a couple of people coming into the pits here. We've got Hiro Matsushita and Walter Salas at the back of the field. Just a couple of the tail end of cars there. Salas is a lap down after that incident. But, you know, as we saw in Portland, in a full wet early on in that race, Firestone definitely had a very distinct advantage. But as the track began to dry, then the Goodyear guys came into their own. And this track is drying out pretty quickly.
Yes, it is. We're already seeing that line develop. There's the damage to Paul Tracy's car, the very bent-looking left rear rim on that machine, and of course the nose cone. Now this is Walter Salas, in fact, having a nose cone change down there in the pit lane, almost opposite our commentary position, and hopefully that's the only damage done to Walter's car. If he's got away with it that lightly, then he's a lucky man, and he may well be able to join the back of the queue and get back into this race, which would be good news for the youngster. Yep, they've got that car running. Oh, no, I said that too soon, didn't I? He stalled it coming out of the pits, and they're going to have to pull him back into the bay and get him out again. Also into the pits there is Patrick Carpentier. Now that's interesting. There you can see him being brought into the far end of the pit lane, just ahead of Salas. Don't know what the problem is for the Canadian, but there's obviously something worrying the team. And Carpentier, who had started quite a long way down, 20th position, but obviously in trouble on that opening lap. Maybe some sort of misfire he's picked up.
Yeah, because he came in a long way behind the rest of the pack, so that's somewhat curious. And we look out of our window here, we can see they're still working on that car, and we'll see whether he can get back out into the race.
So yes, we just had confirmation from the pit radio that there is a misfire on Carpentier's car. Of course, all this rain doesn't exactly help the electronics on these machines. They were all sitting out in the rain for a while, then they put the covers on. There's a good sight. There's Paul Tracy just going up to the medical centre which we looked at on one of our programs earlier on this year in Michigan. In fact, it's $1 million medical centre, an absolutely superb facility. Just taking another look again at the incident, and Alain Sajuni in fact able to escape round the back there, and everyone else just about managing to escape because Salas was far enough over to the right. But poor old Paul Tracy was the one who was the victim of that incident.
Yeah, no question. From where Tracy was on the track as Gualta was spinning, Tracy had to go to the inside line. He had no choice. Salas at that stage definitely was spinning towards the outside of the racetrack, and it was only after Paul had made his commitment to go to the inside that those rear tyres just got enough grip just to push that car forward maybe just 2 or 3 feet. And that's really all it took, and that was just disaster for Paul Tracy.
There's the damage to the nose cone of Gualta Salas. You could see that the monocoque construction of the carbon fibre and aluminium honeycomb in there. The construction of that nose cone, very strong. They have to be very strong, of course, to meet the rules and the impact tests that are part of the kart safety features. But of course, it's a slightly different incident where a car runs over the top of the nose cone. It's not really designed to withstand that sort of treatment. But it's good to see that they've got Salas back out again.
Yeah, meanwhile, we just had a note from Dario Franchitti, who radioed into his crew to say the track is pretty dry up at this end of the racetrack where we are, up towards turn 1, but it's very damp still around the rest of this racetrack. So it'll be a while yet before we see anybody even thinking about coming in for slicks.
So here we go, restart number 1 as we get Mauricio Gugelmin climbing this steep hill to come across the line and receive the green flag onto lap number 3. In fact, it is not 4. We're not quite got that far yet. And Mauricio Gugelmin leads Marc Blundell down towards turn number 1 with Alex Zanardi in 3rd position, Franchitti in 4th, and let's hope that they all make it through this first corner safely this time. Somebody was a little bit crossed up on the inside, looked like De Ferran, but I think he managed to keep it all together, perhaps just trying to take a tighter line to get more traction out of the corner. So there's Gugelmin now, just trying to pull away, got the advantage of clean visibility, no spray being thrown up, but as you can see, in fact, it's not that bad in terms of spray, and that's just a little worse as they start coming down the hill into turn number 5. This is a tricky area. We saw an awful lot of cars going off here this morning.
Yeah, there were cars spinning every which way there, as indeed they were on many of the other corners as well. We can see there they go up the hill. There's Brian Herter and Greg Moore right behind him. Greg Moore sliding that player's car, and there behind him one of the Brahma cars. I think that's Raul Boisel. There is Greg Moore, the player's Reynard Mercedes, tiptoeing through turn 6 to the top of the hill, and under pressure as it goes down Hurry Downs. There's a wonderful name for a part of the racetrack, as they are streaming down the hill towards turn 8.
Now into turn number 8 then. This is a tight left-hander followed by the carousel where they're building up speed here. And now this is a corner where you can try an outside line in the wet. Now watch at Dario. Is he going to stay out wide? Looks as though he is. Yep, staying out wide on the outside line, looking for a little bit more grip. But we've got Paul Tracy in the pits. Let's hear from him.
Race car, let alone an IndyCar before? No, I mean, I've been racing since I was 7 and never got upside down before. So it's a pretty sad day for the Marlboro crew. The race had only just started, and Gualter spun in front of us, and I had to go one way or the other, and I guess I chose the wrong way, and just clipped him, and the tire barrier rolled me over. So it's it's pretty disappointing for the championship for us, and we just can't seem to buy any luck right now.
Seems like too many times we've been having to talk to you lately early in a race about this championship that is now disappearing with only the 3 races to go after this. The challenge really is huge now, isn't it?
Well, it really is. I mean, we had a lot of good luck to start the season. We had a lot of things go wrong, places like we were spun in Brazil and still came off and won the race. So we had some good luck, and I guess it's catching up with us now. It's just can't seem to have any good luck right now.
Hey, I'll tell you, good luck that you're okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The leaders coming up to cross the line. Marc Blundell making sure that, and Alex Zanardi even more so, making sure they're on the wet part of the circuit to keep the tyres cool on this drier section of track. Into turn 1 they come now. Dario Franchitti, there he is in 4th place and sliding that car. Remember, not much experience in the wet, but he's on the Firestone tyre. Top 3 cars are on the Firestone. Michael Andretti's the top runner on Goodyear, then Gilles de Ferran on Goodyear's, and then he's being chased by Scott Pruitt on the Firestones.
Yeah, de Ferran was able to move past Scott Pruitt on that last lap, and there is Brian Herter we see coming out of turn 3 ahead of Greg Moore, sliding that car sideways again under hard acceleration out of turn 3.
Yes, it's clear that the Goodyear tyres working pretty well. We're not seeing that sort of drop-off that we saw in the early part of the Portland race, with both Andretti, de Ferran and Herta keeping pace at the moment pretty well with the Firestone cars. That's good news. And of course the rain not as heavy as it was in the warm-up this morning. Herta reported in the warm-up that he was struggling to keep up with the Firestone cars through the carousel section of the track, but it's just not as wet as it was this morning. The tyres are not having to clear away the water quite so much, and perhaps that's helping the Goodyear guys. Well, we've just had news from the pits that Patrick Carpentier is in fact now lost 4th gear, so it looks as though that's the end of the race for the youngster. And Roberto Moreno